Welcome to the next episode of On Call with Dr. Jason Golbin. I am super excited today to be sitting next to an incredible doctor. His name is Dr. Bruce Mayerson, and Bruce is co-chair of neuroscience of all of Catholic Health, as well as the chair of neurology at St. Catherine of Siena Hospital. Bruce, welcome. It's so awesome to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here with an old friend.
I love that. Well, let's talk about that. But we go back now. It's 12 years. I came to St. Catherine's in 2013.
That sounds amazing.
And I will say that you were one of the first people I met in the hospital. In comes this very smart-looking gentleman who says, "Hey, I'm Bruce. I'm chair of neurology." He said, "Oh my God, thank God you're here." I was studying for the neurocritical care boards, if you remember this.
I do.
And I will say neurology is not my strong suit. And you tutored me along, and you got me through the neurocritical care boards. Thank you very much. I maintain those boards to this day.
As you should. That's
Oh,
great.
I love it. Tell me, Brucey, what got you into medicine in the first place?
You know, growing up, I was always very science oriented. I always did much better in the math and science end of things academically than I did in the arts and that kind of thing. And so I thought when I was younger that this is probably where I was going to wind up.
Did you have that logical thought, really?
I did.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know that I had that when I was in grade school.
Right.
No, but I think by the time I got to high school, I realized that I knew before I went to college I would be pre-med.
Okay.
And then it just took off from there. And so, yeah.
Where'd you go undergrad?
I went to UPenn.
You went to Penn, and where did you go to med school?
Downstate.
So you were in Pennsylvania for a little while.
I came back to New York City, and that's where I did all my training. I stayed in New York for the next 10 years.
Neurology. Why neurology? And let me tell you why I asked that question. For not everybody knows this. Neurology right now is an amazingly exciting field. Not that it's not always but these days there are some really incredible interventions where we change lives. But back in the day, neurology was a tough field because it was very, very smart people making very, very esoteric diagnoses, and then there was nothing to do.
So they used to say neurology was diagnose and adios, and that was the end of it. That was the big line when I was a resident.
Yeah, so why?
Well, when I was a med student, I should say. I was so fascinated with the subject matter. This is the truth, really, that I almost, there were times when I was frustrated with what I couldn't do, but I was so fascinated with neuroanatomy and the pathology that I was seeing that I almost didn't care. I just wanted to take care of these patients. I was literally that interested. And, as I've been practicing now for 24 years at the same St. Catherine's Hospital, I have watched this field that was really in its infancy as far as therapeutics go explode. And that's really, I think, what's happened in neurology more than pretty much any specialty I can think of, because we were behind and now we're caught up to most of our sister subspecialties in terms of treatment. So, neurology has changed a lot over time, and I feel privileged to be practicing at a time where I've been able to see all these advances and really enjoy the treating of these patients and the therapeutic end of it, not just diagnose and adios.
Yeah, I can't imagine what. So the classically we think of stroke, right?
Sure.
For a long time, we would see a stroke. We would diagnose a stroke. The neurologist actually would make the diagnosis of to which specific vessel in the brain was obstructed. Just based on a physical exam with the little bag, right, which you still carry.
Have.
I know it.
Daily.
I see you with that bag. To now where if we have stroke symptoms, we almost don't even need a CAT scan. We do just to make sure there's no bleed. But other than that, we now can bust that clot.
Yeah, I think the therapeutics of stroke has now taken over a lot of the what's the word I'm looking for? The mental discussion.
Exercise, right.
Exercise.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
And now it's true. Back in the day, we had a lot of time to think about the symptoms and what we needed to do or not do or whatever, because we didn't have any interventions. And then back in 1995, the big NINDS trial came out, and
It was 95?
yeah, and since 96, we've been using TPA, and it's been a treatable disease. It started off in 3 hours. Now we're out to 4.5 hours for medical interventions, but mechanical thrombectomy now, which we are doing at 2 of our sister hospitals, Good Samaritan and St. Francis. Patients can even be thrombectomized up to 24 hours.
Yeah,
some studies are showing that there's even benefit that late, and that the benefit even that late may outweigh some of the risks of bleeding and that sort of thing. So it's really, it's a complete game changer. The way we approach stroke now is so much different. It was always interesting and fascinating, but now it really is a time dependent disease that
Time is brain.
Time is brain, and that, I think, is the mantra that we've lived by. And what happened was, in 2015, the trials came out that showed that mechanical thrombectomy, going in with a catheter into the groin or the arm and putting the catheter up into the brain, pulling out the clot, several studies showed that was effective, which we knew because
we suspected, we saw the results,
but now we had the double-blind randomized controlled trials, and with that, we knew that we were in a whole new era of stroke. And that's when this whole notion of comprehensive stroke centers started to become popularized. And Dr. Beckles, my colleague,
who was here, he's been with us.
He has been here. Really started the first stroke center, comprehensive stroke center in Suffolk County. He built it in record time. And they've had an amazing success over the years with that. And his group is growing. They're getting busier and busier. We're adding a second biplane machine at Good Samaritan. So, this disease has become its own subspecialty within.
Did you do a vascular fellowship?
I did. I'm boarded in vascular.
Boarded. I knew there was. Yeah. I remembered something. Yeah, but that was again ahead of the time, ahead of the curve, because nobody was even thinking about it.
Right. All this stuff was. I'm kind of at the. I was at the very start of it. Right. People who came out 5-10 years after me were really more in the thick of it. But I direct the stroke center at St. Catherine's, and I've been very active with it over the year, and I've been a huge advocate. It's really become again a whole specialty unto itself.
Agreed. Now I'm going to tell another story. So when I came to St. Catherine's, it was 2013. I'd been in practice at Good Sam, and so then I was the CMO at St. Catherine's, and the first thing people said is, we are one of the best in the nation in stroke. And I said, this is St. Catherine's Community Hospital, 200 beds. How can that be? And of course, it was not just the esteemed Bruce Mayerson, but there was an amazing nurse who ran stroke, Kathy Vedetta. She was a force of nature. She saw every single stroke patient. She would come in all hours of the night. She'd make sure you did not miss a beat. You made all the time metrics. You dotted your T's and your I's. And she made sure that our stroke patients got the absolute premier care, better than anywhere else, really, or equivalent to anywhere else in the nation.
Kathy was a stickler for detail, and she was my stroke coordinator for years. And she retired a couple of years back. Yeah. She still consults. She still comes in and helps them.
She does. That's great.
Consultation. But she's retired essentially. But she really was a force to be reckoned with as a stroke coordinator. And
but with your partnership, it was the teamwork. That's right.
But the baton that she passed to our current stroke director, Jerry Grippa, it's been great.
Amazing.
We keep doing things, and the awards keep coming. And our acute stroke patients that need mechanical thrombectomy wind up going down to Good Samaritan
quickly.
Hospital. Very quickly. We have it down. We have this down to a science, and it's fun to watch.
Now we've taken that reference to Kathy Vedetta, and I almost use that as a verb. we need the Kathy Vedette or something, where we need somebody in charge who's passionate, who will lead the cause.
Yeah.
And again,
she kept me on my toes. I will say that.
She kept all of us on our toes.
I didn't. If I missed anything, I knew about it. I found out about it the hard way.
Miss anything.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not just stroke, right? Where else are we seeing advances? The one. I will fess up and say I don't know much about it clinically, but certainly in dementia care, right?
Yeah, dementia is in many ways, another example of an area where the diagnosis could be made as best it could be made, and then we had nothing to do. We said you have this, and that's the story. Diagnostically, they used to say that you can only diagnose Alzheimer's with at autopsy, at which point it obviously doesn't much matter anymore as far as therapeutics. However, the past several years, there has been an explosion in both the diagnosis of dementia, such that we can now diagnose Alzheimer's disease while the patient is alive in situ. And we can also treat them, because we now have, for about 2.5 years now, 2 monoclonal antibodies that attack the abnormal protein that accumulates in the brain. It's called amyloid. And the amyloid is what gives you the plaques that you hear about in Alzheimer's disease. And by attacking these with these new drugs, we are able to slow the progression of the disease, which is something we could never do. We had medicines that could enhance your memory a little bit, but we couldn't change the underlying natural course of this degenerative illness, which by definition gets worse, and ultimately it leads to a patient's demise. And we can now, and it's to be seeing that is just extraordinary.
It almost feels like stroke 10 years ago.
Correct.
Right? 15 years ago.
Correct. And the only difference is that stroke is more of an acute problem, whereas dementia is more of
insidious chronic.
Precisely. But like stroke, early diagnosis is the key as far as getting the most bang for your buck, because these medicines, these monoclonal antibodies, which are infusions, are work best when they're started early. And now that we can make the diagnosis very early by doing certain scans of the brain, or by lumbar puncture and getting some spinal fluid to analyze, now that we can do this, these are the patients who are candidates when we can make the diagnosis while they're still living. And it's really going to be a game changer. And I think it's only going to continue to evolve over time. I think over the next several decades, we're going to be talking about a different disease. I
feel like I've seen life expectancy of dementia. It looks like a cancer line, with some of the more advanced cancers. So now, you see these patients. They come from the primary doctor. They come with a working diagnosis. And
so often they'll come to me in the office, and the chief complaint will be memory loss. And you start taking history with them. They often have a family member. It's very helpful to have a family member with them. Some of these people don't understand the extent of how bad they are.
Right, they can't. Their disease doesn't allow them to have the insight to their disease, right?
Right. We call that anosognosia, right? When you don't know that there's something going on. So when you have family there, it's helpful. You take a history, you examine the patient, and then based on what you're seeing and hearing will drive you down the diagnostic pathway. Typically, we start with some imaging of the brain. MRI is best. CAT scan if they can't have an MRI, and we run them through some blood work to make sure there's no metabolic issues that would be affecting their memory. And if those things have been excluded, we can then get into, well, do you have Alzheimer's disease? Let's get this. Let's get the amyloid scan. Let's get a tau PET scan. Let's get some spinal fluid. There's a blood test now, p-tau 217. So we have all these tools now to make a diagnosis that 10 years ago people were saying you can't diagnose while the patient's alive.
Then we diagnose and we have therapeutic
and we can treat it. Well, that's why the diagnostics have become so important, because we can't treat them unless we know what they've got. And dementia is a blanket term. I hear people ask me all the time, what's the difference if I say Alzheimer's disease, or if I'm using the words interchangeably,
right?
What's the difference? And I always say the following, which is that all Alzheimer's disease is dementia, but not all dementia is Alzheimer's disease. And there are many different things that can cause dementia that are not Alzheimer's disease. Those people right now in the year 2025 are not treatable with the medicines.
The wellness community, Catholic Health is getting deeper into wellness. We now
Yes.
have Katie Ledecky as our health and wellness ambassador. To me, it's along with cancer, metabolic disease, cardiac disease. Now, dementia is right up there.
Oh yeah. There's going to be an explosion in the treatment. Frankly, on some level, it concerns me a little bit about Medicare because
How are they going to pay for it? Are they paying for it now?
They're paying for it, but man, these tests are expensive. These drugs are a fortune and more. And because it's now on TV and people are speaking about it more, and dementia is in a word, right now, all of a sudden, these patients are coming out of the woodwork, and we are literally in an epidemic of this. I mean, the number of people I see weekly with the chief complaint of memory loss. Not all of whom will ultimately be diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but who have that complaint has, I would say, probably tripled to quadrupled.
So is that a change in the disease, or is it that just there's more, it's probably a little bit of both?
I think the awareness is out there, and I think that when primary care doctors now can say, we may have something for you.
Boom, let's get you to the
specialist.
specialist.
Let's get you to the neurologist. Whereas back in the day,
I got it.
Okay, I have a little, my memory's about, man, don't worry, Dad's 85 years old.
Right.
It's not like that anymore.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so it's changed immensely.
What else is going on? And so there's certainly, I think of dementia and stroke. What else are you seeing on your typical day that's exciting, that's changing?
We see a lot of Parkinson's disease, and there have been a lot of changes with regard to Parkinson's. I mean, the standard of care is still L-Dopa, which is
right. Yeah, it's been the standard of care forever,
and it still is. And what happens is drug companies come out with different forms of it, an inhaler or different. In other words, but it's all the theme is the theme is the same,
right? And
it's L-Dopa. The brain needs L-Dopa, but what has become even more interesting is the diagnosis of it, because Parkinson's is classically a clinical diagnosis. You see the patient
rigidity,
precisely. The patient has a resting tremor, cogwheel rigidity. They have stiffness, slowness of movement. They may have gait abnormalities. Yes. But now, what we're starting to see is ways to better diagnose it without, with a test where we can say, yes, this is
that's interesting.
Parkinson's. So we're going to be doing skin biopsies for alpha-synuclein, which is the abnormal protein in Parkinson's.
You're triggering my neurology brain.
And believe it or not, this is hot off the presses. There are what's called volatile organic compounds in our earwax.
In earwax.
Correct, and they are starting now to use earwax sampling and checking for these compounds to make a diagnosis of. So I mean, this is crazy. I mean, we never thought with a piece of skin or with some earwax we could make a diagnosis of Parkinson's, but that's where it's headed.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's as far as the therapeutics of it, I think it's going to be a game changer.
So neurology was actually a really great choice. I can't imagine you doing anything else.
They say in life, they say timing is everything. Yes. I don't know why I was placed here at this moment in time to practice what I practice, but I just consider myself lucky that there's been such an explosion.
Well, we're lucky to have you. You take care of my family, and amazing. Now, Brucey, so this stuff is amazing, but it's stressful and it's hard. What do you do for fun? How do you kind of wean down after the day?
How much fun I have, I'm not so sure. but I at the end, my favorite thing to do, and I bring all my gear to the office, is running. So when I'm done with patient care, I'll put on my shorts, my sweatshirt. If it's dead of summer,
you go right from the office?
Middle of the winter, I run at the office 5-6 miles. I'll come back. I'll answer my phone calls. I'll check my films. I'll do whatever I have to do, and then I go home. And that's been my routine for about 5 or 6 years now, and it works because listen, I know if I go home,
you're not going to do it.
Up on the couch and I'm
that's
done.
Right. Do you listen to music, or you just listen to?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Yeah, I'm getting a little more tech savvy, and I now have my earbuds and
podcast,
Spotify.
Spotify. I'm a Spotify kid. You can load it on your watch and just.
So that's the thing. I can run now with just my
your watch,
Apple Watch, and these, and I don't need my phone. And that's pretty much how I blow off steam.
But you run your whole life? I know for a while there, I remember you were lifting weights and.
Yes, I went through a phase where I was about 30 pounds heavier.
Yeah, I mean, lifting weights is an understatement.
Yeah, I really went crazy.
Yeah, in a good way. I mean, you got
and that was
big
in
and
the mid
strong.
like 20 teens.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, I was like, I just stopped. Like, when Forrest Gump stops running, he was like, all of a sudden it just stops. So I stopped doing it, and I went back to running. I've been a runner my whole life. I was captain of my track team.
Oh, I didn't know that. Back in high school?
Back in junior high, yeah.
Junior,
Yeah. So I've been
college. Did you run in college?
No, I didn't run competitively in college.
You studied.
I wasn't that good. I studied a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I always seem to come back to running. I think it's the endorphins, and there's definitely science to it.
I agree. I'm.
Yeah, no, I know. We've talked about this.
Pull you out to the marathon.
I know you've done marathon. I'm not going to do it. My chicken legs cannot handle a marathon.
It's.
I wish I would love to. I'm just not.
Look, you know me. I couldn't run 2 feet.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
I love the distance because once you break through, it's probably the same thing for you. Once you do the first mile stinks. It always stinks. It doesn't matter. It always stinks. By mile 2, you're kind of in your groove, and then you could just keep running.
Once you get to that rhythm, it's like you can keep going.
You keep going. That's right.
And every runner says that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just a rhythmic sort of thing, and I should be cross training, which I'm not, and that's why I keep injuring myself, which I am.
You should be. That's right.
But
you don't spin, no bike.
No. I don't even know what those things are. I know what a bike is. I don't know what spin means or whatever. I just go.
You would love it because you're so passionate about it.
I have to change
your passion, comes through in everything you do, not just in medicine, but in your love of sports, of running.
Yeah.
When you live, it was passionate. All right. So I always ask everybody now. You St. Catherine's now has residents, right? Super exciting. We have surgical residents. We have psych residents who just started.
I am now I am now directing the neurology section of the psychiatry residency.
Oh, that's awesome! I didn't know that.
Psychiatrists have to have
a couple of months,
3 months of neurology training.
Because they need to be able to differentiate.
So I just last week got my first psychiatry resident, and so we're rounding in the hospital. We have mid-levels now. We have PAs and P. So we're definitely expanding.
Do you enjoy getting back to academic? I mean, you're always academic, but teaching residents is a different game.
I do, but I've been I've been teaching residents at a resident clinic
for a long time. That's right.
Career,
that's right.
And I've still been doing that, but this now in my day-to-day work, I can intertwine the teaching with that, and it makes things hard in some ways, but it makes things very rewarding in ways that they may not have been when you were just kind of
doing your work all day.
Correct.
Right. So much in the hospital. I know why I would call either psych or neuro would be altered mental status, right?
Very common concept.
And then is it delirium? Is it dementia? Is it toxic metabolic? Right, which is classically the answer in the hospital, right?
Well, so and that's the thing. A lot of these things kind of overlap to some degree, and I think that's why psychiatrists need a certain amount of neurology training. And by the way, I had 3 months of psychiatry training when I was doing neurology, so it goes both ways.
I love it. I love it. All right, so now we have residents.
But it's very exciting. And we're even talking about we're entertaining in 2027 perhaps a
neurology right. We're getting medicine in 20. Where are we now? 25, 26 we'll have medicine, and then we can have neuro, ortho, anesthesia. I mean, there's all these. It's our bench. It's our future bench. We work so hard to find neurologists to join your team,
and it's not easy.
Right?
But it's a good way to recruit people for sure, and it's exciting. It's fun.
So what piece of advice now? You have this freshly minted. I mean, they don't know anything, right? They just came out of medical school. What one guiding principle?
I think that medicine in many ways is a calling, and I would say that to anybody in high school and college, if you want to go become a physician because you know that you can't wake up every single day and do anything differently, and it's a calling, you should pursue it, because otherwise you're always going to feel like you didn't get to that calling in quotations. That said, I think once you're there and you're in medicine, I think the important thing is taking a lot of time to consider different specialties and subspecialties and seeing where you think your quality of life will balance best with the intellectual goals. Yeah, stimulation and taking care of patients that would be most useful, and that's something that you should take time to do.
I love.
You want to do it right the first time.
Yeah, that's a wonderful piece of advice, and what makes you special, I will say, having known you many years now, is not just how smart you are, not just how passionate you are, but the experience of care that you deliver your patients. Again, my family members, you make them feel like they are the most important thing, because they are, right? When they're in front of you, they are.
I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. All the reading, everything, it comes down so you can hone in on that patient.
That's right. And you hear them and you treat them the way they want to be treated. And I'm super proud that right after this, you and I are both heading to the Catholic Health's first annual Guardian of Excellence, our first Patient Experience Awards, and you are one of the awardees, having scored over the 90th percentile in patient experience for a year. That's really, really remarkable. It's nearly perfect, and I am super proud that you are our co-chair of neurosciences here.
I am very excited about it. I have to tell you, I wasn't even sure what I was being honored for.
I wouldn't take you to something bad.
But the truth of the matter is of everything we do, if your patients feel that way about you in terms of your doctoring, then you really have hit the pinnacle, I think, of your career.
Well said, because the expectation is that we deliver quality and safety, right? That's part of the job, right? When you graduate, the expectation is we have that. It's the special sauce that really makes it, because they're rating you versus every other doctor in the nation.
That's right, and they are. I mean, they're online. You know how it is now.
I know.
Press Ganey. I mean, this is big business now, and it's important, and I'm thrilled that I was selected for this honor.
Excellent. Me too. Yeah. Bruce, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for being an amazing doctor.
Pleasure.